So guys, welcome back to another video. As some of you may be aware already, I have just picked up another ATP point in Budapest a few weeks ago. I'll get on to telling you about my experience in that tournament in a sec, but if you haven't done already, then hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, you get notified when I post, so you can watch more of me, of course. And if anybody would like to support me further, I have actually created a Buy Me a Coffee page where you can do one-off contributions or you can support me monthly for $5. And obviously the support goes a really long way. It helps me to reach more tournaments, improve my ranking, get better equipment, everything that I need to compete at the highest level of tennis. But anyway, back onto the video. So, as you'll have probably seen in previous videos, I did play a UTR PTT on clay the week before the Futures. It was on clay, obviously, and then I was going on to the Futures, which was on hard. And, I was kind of worried about that switching surface, but the clay actually really helped me. I think that it built a really solid foundation of my game and then also some real kind of mental resilience. And I felt like I just found something, playing in that week, although it was so tough, because there was so much going on. I was playing loads of matches. It was tough conditions. It was hot, humid. And then when I was coming off court, I was making more content, and I was kind of like in a bit of a cycle of just constantly being on it, mentally. And then towards the end of the week, I played my last match in the UTR, headed straight over to the other club where the Futures was being held. Hit on the hard court, and I almost just had to stop because I was like, I'm so tired. And then, having competed in the UTR that finished on Saturday, I went straight into playing the Futures on Sunday. So I played 6 matches in a row, and then I was going to play a 7th match in a row, playing the first round qualies. So I managed to get through the first round qualies, played a Hungarian wildcard who was actually pretty good. He didn't have a really high UTR, but it was pretty tough, and switching surfaces was a bit of a change up. The balls were different, everything was just different, and yeah, it was just challenging. But I felt like things I'd learned in the previous week had really helped me out, just the mental resilience stuff, just adapting, and I was almost too tired to really kind of care as well. Obviously wanted to win, but at that point you just get kind of so fatigued that you don't really think about losing in the same way. So obviously got through the first round, and then of course the next round I'm playing a British guy who I'm going for dinner with, good mates with, all that sort of stuff. Attractive. And I was almost thinking before I went into this match, second round qualies, got to play 3 rounds of qualies in total, and I was thinking there's no pressure, this guy's a really good player, like he's beaten me twice before, I've never beaten him. And I just came out and started playing really well and ended up winning the match. And it was kind of, because I'd played so many matches and got some good wins, like I had so much momentum, and I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing, I was just kind of doing it. And then of course the next round I'm playing another one of my mates, and then it's on the same day, of course, because there were 2 rounds of qualies in the same day. So I played the 2nd and 3rd round of qualies in the same day. So had like 2 hours break and then went straight into the 3rd round qualies. And then because there were no floodlights, we had to, I think it was a set and 1 love or something in the second set, and we had to stop because it was so dark. And again, that was challenging because if anybody out there's, started a match on one day and had to finish on another from a rain delay or even, the lights, it's so tough to come out the next day and play again. But again, I feel like that week at the UTR before, just building up that resilience and, the focus kind of really helped me. And I came out the next day, I came out the blocks in the second set and just went 5-2 up straight away. And then almost got a bit ahead of myself. I was like thinking in my head, which is totally the wrong thing to do. I was like, I've qualified for my first Futures in like a year and a half or whatever. Like, I was like kind of thinking about that, and I was thinking, this would be like amazing, like, if I could qualify. And then I started thinking about a bit of money, and then, my mind went away from the tennis, and then the guy that I was playing just started coming back and, playing really well. He loosened up and he, started to recognize some patterns that really worked for him. And then that was it. And, I ended up losing the second set 7-5. And I was thinking to myself, what an idiot. Obviously completely lost focus. And then I actually went 7-4 down in the breaker as well. And I was like, at this point, I was almost like, I'd been wrestling with myself so much, and I was really struggling to just let the ball go. I couldn't, get anything on the ball because I was so tight. And I was just getting the ball in, and I got to 7-4, it's my serve, and I just thought, if I don't go for it now, then, I'm never going to be able to go for it, properly, and it's the only way that I'm going to get up the levels. So I just thought, use it as almost like a practice thing. If I don't let go now, then, when I get to a meaningful situation in the future, I'm not going to have practiced letting go. So, threw the ball up, hit an ace out wide, and then next point, 7-5, threw the ball up, ace down the tee, and I was like, that mindset really helped me of just letting go almost. And then, at 7-6, my opponent played a very good point, got to 8-6, and then, I managed to fight back with a pretty epic, 40 or 50 shot rally, finishing with a backhand pass down the line. Which I was very lucky to win the rally. He was on top of the rally the whole time. And then at 8-7, I was saying to myself, I just had to go for it again. And I went for the first serve and missed it. And I was like, oh, well, at least it was better than just poking it in. And then, the second serve, I said, well, I'm so tight that, if I try and get this in, then it's just going to miss. So I just went for another big serve, and it paid off. The return didn't come back. And then at 8-all, exactly the same thing. Just threw it up, tried to hit it, nearly hit the baseline, and then second serve, exactly the same thing, hit it as hard as I could, and then it somehow went in. And then at 9-8, I think my opponent had double faulted, so I was pretty lucky there because I was super tight, and he was playing really well behind his serve, so that would have been a very tough point. But again, I was quite lucky to get through that match. But I was just happy with making it to the main draw, to be honest. I hadn't done that for a while, and obviously there was a bit of pressure there because it was a good chance to do it, and I managed to do it. And then in the first round of the main draw, couldn't believe it, I drew a Hungarian wildcard who I'd played the first match of the UTR on the clay. And I was thinking, what are the chances of that? Time for a bit of revenge. And I look back at the match that I played against him, and it's on YouTube, it's on, my channel. And he was just hitting the ball massive. He was just ripping the ball around. And, on the clay, I had to stand really far back. I couldn't take on his serve because it was just, getting up too quickly. I'd have to half volley it. And then, but on the hard court, things are different. So, he was hitting these kick serves that were really hurting me on the clay, but on the hard, initially they were. And then I just stood in and started just blocking it back, just getting it in, and just almost poking the ball to his backhand and getting him into a rally. And, the first set was just so scrappy. I was facing break points, saved break points, and it was just a bit wild because, he could have easily taken that set 3 or 4 times, and I managed to just hold on. And the fatigue was really starting to get to me. I was starting to feel quite empty while I was on the court. So I was having to try and be as efficient as possible. So whenever I was on top of the point, I was trying to come to the net, or serving and volleying a little bit as well, because the conditions were so kind of lively. But unlike the clay, I could guarantee the bounce, and I could, half volley a few things or take the ball earlier, save myself a bit of energy. Whereas on the clay, I couldn't guarantee the bounce, and I was just working from 6 feet behind the court for a lot of the time. And on the hard, he couldn't get the ball up as high to my backhand. So, but yeah, anyway, it was super scrappy. But I think because I'd played so many matches and been in so many pressure situations, chances to win matches, as soon as we got into the first set tiebreak, we held all the way up till, the tiebreak. And I was just thinking in my head, whoever wins this set is going to be the guy who wins the match, really, because we'd both put so much effort in to the first set, and it had been so close. And yeah, I managed to just sneak it. I went a break down in the set. I think it was 5-3 down in the tie break, and then managed to just bring it back. And I remember the set point. I faced set point on my serve, and then managed to turn it around, get set point on his serve, and just managed to take it. And then after that, I think he kind of lost his energy, and I was obviously thinking that I'm just going to fight as hard as possible here. Like, I'm not giving him anything in this next set. It's obviously a great chance to get another point and get on the board again. And yeah, I managed to just hold out and be solid. And I think that he didn't have the best time, but it happens in tennis, and the momentum just completely went, and I managed to take the second set 6-love. But yeah, obviously I was pumped with it. I was like really happy. I was straight afterwards I was getting on the phone and just saying like that, and then quickly realised that I had more matches to play, and then went and did all my recovery stuff, my bands, stretching, may have had a few coffees on the balcony as well. But yeah, and then the next day I had to come out and play another match, and by this time the fatigue was really starting to set in. And I played another Hungarian guy actually, who used to be 500 in the world, like very solid player. I think when I played him, he was ranked around 1,000, maybe 1,400, I think, because he hadn't been playing for some reason. But his results were very good, so I was like very wary that he was going to be a very tough opponent. And so second round main draws, everyone's there, everyone wants it. I started the match off great. Went to break up straight away, playing loose, and I could just slowly feel my energy just go a little bit. And at that level, it makes the difference. Once you're like kind of, 1 or 2% away from, kind of like your average level, you just got no chance. And, I nearly took the first set, had a set point, and I was feeling really good. Like on the court, like, once you get that bit of adrenaline, you're okay. Obviously, I knew I was tired. I'd played, I think I played 9 or 10 matches in a row at that point. That was maybe my 11th match in a row, in like 11 days. It was hot. It was humid, and it was just tough. And I think my opponent figured out what to do. He relaxed into his game, and then I just kind of faded away a little bit. But I think from that experience, I've taken away, a lot of positives, a lot moving forward that I want to carry on with. And yeah, I guess, it's looking at it like, where has the 1 point got me? Like, to be honest, not very far. I've had to do so much work to get it, and I didn't really get any reward for it either. Like, the point is the reward. Like, it doesn't put me into main draw. I've still got to play qualies, but at least I've got a better chance of getting in qualies now, especially for the English futures, because if you're unranked, you're probably not going to get in, really. You might do. There's no guarantee. But yeah, I remember going into the office afterwards to pick up my prize money, and obviously I played futures before. I know what it's like. It's pretty poor. And I think it was like under £180 or something. It was like nothing. And I'd played, 5 matches, got nothing really for it. It just about paid off my stringing bill and one night of a commo, really. But that's futures. And that was the next thing that I was going to go on to is it's just so unsustainable. Like, unless you're making like semis to break even if you're making semis, like you're still pretty much losing money, maybe. Depends on where you go. So it's like I'm kind of restricted unless I get, sponsored or, or they put more tournaments on in the UK. It's kind of a very difficult road, really. And that's why, I've gone back to the UTRs again, try and earn some money, try and, get past a final or something like that, get past the semi-final and, earn a real kind of good chunk of money, and then be able to play like 1 or 2 futures, I've had a few people say, why don't you work? And I was like, well, it's the same problem, isn't it? You work for, 2 or 3 weeks, and then you can afford maybe 2 weeks abroad. playing a futures but you haven't trained, so it's like you're actually wasting your money. So, you know, there's loads of like complications with it. But yeah, I think what I'm going to do for now is just carry on playing UTRs. Obviously they're great, you know, I've been enjoying playing them and getting prize money. And then at some point when I can, I'm going to get back on the futures and try and get my world ranking just that little bit higher. So, but anyway, big thank you for watching again. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.